Welcome to UCHL's for today's media luncheon. Our players, wide receiver Jamie Potts, offensive lineman Jim Walsh, head coach Matt Mitchell. Jamie Potts has been named the Special Teams Player of the Week for this week. So, Coach Mitchell, if you can talk about the Findlay victory, and then we'll move on to 8th-ranked Ashland.
Good weekend to be a Laker. Had a Hall of Fame ceremony on Friday night. It was good to have a lot of alums back for that. Chuck Martin was in attendance, and then a lot of teammates of Cullen Finnerty and guys that played for Chuck were there. Saturday, we honored the 10th anniversary of the 2005 National Championship team, so majority of guys from that team were back also. We had a lot of big recruits on campus, and then obviously the game itself played very well. Came away with a victory. Defensively, probably about as good as we played all season. I thought we did a great job getting pressure on our quarterback. We sacked him 6 times. I think when you look back on the tape, we put him down in the turf about 20 times. We wanted to get some hits on the quarterback and try to get him off his game. So between disguising some coverages and a lot of pressure, whether it was just from a 4-down pass rush or blitzing our linebackers, we did pressure the quarterback. There was a lot of contact on him, a lot of hits, legal hits, but a lot of contact that I think had an effect on him and their offense. Really, other than one drive where we had an opportunity to pick off a football and we cut a guy loose in man coverage, played a pretty complete game on that side of the ball. Offensively, on the other hand, it was interesting dynamic watching the tape. I think we put up over 600 yards of offense and scored some points, but I didn't feel like we were as crisp as we needed to be. We could still be better on that side of the ball. We're not close to our potential yet. I don't think we played very well overall on the offensive side of the ball. I think it was nice that with Bean being out for the first time, we had guys step up, and Jamie Potts, as I anticipated would, kind of stepping into being the lead receiver. He's kind of 1A. Matt Williams is 1B, but we've got a lot of other guys in that next tier that are making plays too. Justice didn't have any catches, but I thought he had a good day. Erston Smith, 2 true freshmen, continued to grow and develop. In Nick Dotson, we had the touchdown catch, and then we got Christian Lumpkin, a couple touches, which was big for him. Joe Robbins is out there contributing too. So that next tier of guys is getting better. Ironically, I think not having Jamie around this summer and fall camp probably helped the situation with Bean being out. We knew that it was going to kind of be Bean, Williams, Erston Smith, but we also knew we needed more depth, so we decided to not redshirt Nick Dotson and Christian Lumpkin. And you get Potts back, and you start to think maybe, is that a good decision or not? Well, it turned out to be a good decision because we lost Bean. So I was glad we pulled the red shirts off of both those guys, and I think you'll continue to see them grow and develop within our offense. There were just some things offensively, some penalties, some missed execution. We turned the ball over on the 1-yard line for a score. Just a couple things. We could have scored more points, could have put up more yardage. We just weren't crisp throughout the course of the game, so that was frustrating. We got to get that cleaned up. Special teams, mixed bag on special teams. The punt return team is just it's killing me. The penalties we're getting on that team, just unexcusable. Driving me crazy. It was really good for us probably 2-3 weeks ago, and it was a mess on Saturday. Flip side, our punt team was good, not just the fake, but we were protected. Jamie had a really good average. We kind of flipped the field and helped him out a little bit there. So I thought we handled the wind, the environment, everything. I thought our guys showed a lot of maturity, a lot of grit, a lot of resiliency, and I think we're becoming a more mature football team. A lot of these younger guys are growing up, and you play defense like that. Just with terms of the pressure, the tackling, the coverage, only gave up 4 explosive plays the entire game, and most of those were in the second half. They're going to be difficult to beat if you play that type of level of championship defense. So heading into next week, we've got a big challenge in front of us with Ashland. They're obviously undefeated. They'll be ranked in the top 10. So this will be our 4th ranked team that we have faced, and 3 of the 4 have been ranked in the top 10 when we faced them. So we have our strength of schedule is high because we played some really good teams. We're going to continue to play good teams, obviously Ashland being one of them. So we got to play at their place. Been a while since we've been down there. I think 2009 was the last time we were at Ashland. So about everybody in our roster will have never played there. So it'll be a new experience for those guys playing there. But they're a good football team. They're balanced. Have good offense, good defense. When you look at them statistically, they're very similar some of the stats that we are. They're stingy on defense. They got 10 picks, don't give up a lot of points. And offensively, they don't turn the ball over, and they're pretty efficient and balanced on both sides of the ball. So they're solid. There's no really weakness. A couple of these other teams we've faced, there's had some strengths on maybe one side of the ball or the other, or strength up front. They're pretty balanced throughout the deal. So we'll get on the tape and try to put together a plan for our kids, and that'll be the focus of what we got done. So we're at that point in the season here where when you play at Grand Valley, every game matters, but obviously I think our players understand the importance of this contest coming up Saturday at 7 p.m.
Matt, you mentioned some of the guys that were involved, some of the young guys on offense. How about defensively? Carroll had a touchdown in that game, and we've never talked about him before. Can you talk about what kind of player he is? Also, how some of the other people defensively and boy, I just lost my train of thought there. Studdard seemed to have more snaps at corner than the other two guys, probably, it seemed like, during that game. And can you talk about his progress also?
Yeah, referencing Dylan Carroll, he's a freshman in eligibility. Last year, he was a redshirt freshman, and he had a shoulder surgery, which he didn't play at all last year. So I think there's times that, I get frustrated with his play because I think he has more potential, but I got to keep reminding myself he is just a freshman. This just was, his 8th really football game that he's played, collegiately, and he's improved throughout the course of the season. At the beginning of the season, he wasn't playing with the physicality that you need to play in this league. He wasn't playing physical enough. I'll give E.J. Whitlow and him a lot of credit. Got challenged, and he's continued to improve throughout the course of the season. And, he's got to be a guy that I think early in the season we were playing, Judon and Voss too many reps. Playing 70-plus snaps, and it wasn't very effective. And we need a rotation at end, and I'm glad that we're getting Dylan Carroll at a level from a play standpoint that we can rotate him in and spell those guys a little bit so they're not out there grinding through 80 reps every game. We had the best thing about that win, too, as you mentioned, Tom, was we got a lot of guys in. We were up, and we emptied the benches pretty much on both sides of the ball. So that helps. Matt Judon played 46 snaps. A lot of our starters were under 50 snaps on the defensive side of the ball. And with a long season, it has a cumulative effect, and hopefully it'll help us here down the stretch. We got a little bit of those guys rest. But corner, I think Trey Walton has probably emerged he has emerged as our top corner. And so we're leaving him out there a little bit more than we did earlier in the season to let him play, and we're rotating McKissick and Studdard's both at the other corner position, and continue to try to those guys have improved. Both Jacob Studdard and Devin McKissick are both freshmen. Again, this is their first season playing college football, and we got to keep that in frame of reference. And they have improved also throughout the course of the season, and continue to get better. So one other guy to give a shout out on defense is Brad Horling. We didn't have Kyle Short, and so Brad Horling was forced to play nickel, free safety, and strong safety. So our senior captain played 3 different positions on defense on Saturday, and that's not easy. And so I'll give him a lot of credit from a mental standpoint. He was able to flip through to 3 different positions and carry that load, which you needed to when we were a little banged up at the safety position last week.
Can you talk also, Coach, a little bit? I know Judon is getting a great push, it seems like, on every single play, but does a pass rusher help you now against the way teams are using the horizontal passing game, getting out in the flat more, or trying to go around? Is a big pass rush help defend the run more than maybe it would in other circumstances? Because it just seems like a lot of plays were getting blown up, even when they weren't throwing, just trying to get wide or get outside.
Yeah, I think it depends on the style of offense. Certainly, Findlay was a little bit more stationary in the pocket with their quarterback, a little bit more stationary with their run game too, which helped Matt, I think, kind of know where the ball was going to be, and I think the other unique thing about him, there weren't a whole lot of screens, there weren't a whole lot of, he could kind of pin his ears back and kind of go to work. So week to week, you just kind of have to break down what the offense is doing and try to figure out, how to get some of your best players at the point of attack, and he's definitely one of them. We try to get him around the football as much as we possibly can, and I think that, what's been nice about this season is Alton Voss on the other side has continued to improve and play better. I mean, you got to remember, this is a kid that mid-season last year got moved from tight end to D end, and this is really his first full-time season of playing defensive end. And, DJ Hogan was an end his whole career. We move him down inside to 3 technique, and going from an end to an interior defensive tackle, there's a learning curve on that. So I think the reason our defense has continued to get better, too, is that some of these guys, even though you might think them as veterans based on the year that they're listed on the roster, are playing some positions for the first time in 2015. And they're getting more comfortable at those positions, and that's why we're getting the production that we are out of those guys up front.
Coach, statistically it appears Ashland does a pretty good job of stopping the run. Do they do anything different from other teams you've played? And then if you and Jim could address how the offensive line's progressing as far as the running game.
Yeah, I would say I'd have to get back on the tape and talk to our offensive coaches. I know that they've always been a team, and it looks like based on their personnel, they're always a physical group inside. Their interior defensive linemen are physical. They've got a transfer defensive end. That's a very active player and a good player in our league. So they've always had some guys that are extremely physical, and they do a good job, I think, because of that. And the linebackers, they've always had a really physical front seven that's kind of punched you in the mouth, and that's kind of been the brand of football at Ashland. So if you look at the depth chart, a lot of juniors and seniors, not a lot of young guys. There have been some teams in our league having to play some younger guys. That's tougher when you're closer to the line of scrimmage to be young. So I think that's part, I would say from a personnel standpoint, more than anything, that's probably why they're having success. And Jim's played against them, so he can comment a little bit on his prior experiences.
Yeah, they're definitely a physical ball club. The defensive linemen, they get after it. It's a dirty, physical ball game. Sore after the next day, and I think that's why they have some decent success stopping the ball, because they got some big physical kids in the interior, and they got some kids that just pin their ears back and get after it on the edge.
Coach, could you and Jamie talk a little bit about the difference between this year and last? Last year, when you had some trouble early in the season, it seemed like it took you till the second half of the season to kind of really get righted again. Are you surprised at how quickly your team bounced back after the Ferris game, and how quickly you got back on the beam in terms of putting the difficulties aside?
Yeah, I mean, people think I'm crazy. I know we lost 61 to whatever it was, but there wasn't like the Ferris game was a complete disaster. There were some things that you couldn't take away from it. I thought there were some positives that we took away from that game defensively. There's some things that we learned. I mean, I take it, also that there hasn't been a whole lot of first-time starting quarterbacks at Grand Valley. That Game 2 had to go down and face a top 10 team with a great defense on the road, and then Game 3 had to face a top 10 team. So, I kept that in perspective too. We felt good about Bart Williams. He didn't play great that game, but that's a first-time starter having to go out and go against some of those things that he had to go against. So, you look at, you lost that game badly, and then you're sitting here where you're at. I don't view it, I guess, in that terms. I don't think it was that big a bounce back after that loss. I think we did some decent things in that game. The score, you got to be careful about scores and statistics. And that score, we threw a pick on the first play, gave him a short field for a touchdown. We had a bad punt coverage, which gave him a short field for a touchdown. Our twos were in. I yanked the starting defense and put our twos in. They had an 85-yard touchdown run on us. They had a pick six on our quarterback. There were some scores that happened in that game. Your defense, again, same thing. Defense gives up 61 points, they suck. I don't think that was necessarily the case there. There's some scores that Ferris State had in that ball game that were on other units besides just our starting defense. And the whole your defense is, just bounce back and playing awesome, and what's the change? I'm not sure they're ever that bad. I'll be honest with you. I feel like we've had a very good defense the entire way. And I think they're playing up to, they're improving, but they've played up to the level of expectations. So I don't – and this wasn't a locker room after the Ferris game that was really shook at all. I think that those kids saw the potential of what we had, and we weren't there Game 3, and they've continued to try to work on it and continue to improve. And it's completely different in 2015 than 14, and I'll let Jamie kind of comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, we realized in the locker room that it was one game, and one game doesn't really define your season. Obviously, we had to move forward from that loss and learn from it. And luckily, we've got a lot of resilient guys in the locker room and a lot of guys who just want to keep getting better every day. So we're fortunate to bounce back from that pretty quickly and have obviously gained some momentum since then.
This is for Jamie and Coach. Talk a bit about his role on special teams. He came back as wide receiver, but he's emerged as one of the top punters in the country, actually.
Yeah, well, the first game we had Colin Cribley out there, and he won Special Teams Player of the Week, and I benched him. So, tells you about coaching. Basically, what it came down to is Jamie has been in so many competitive situations. When you look at Grand Valley State baseball, Grand Valley State football, Texas Rangers minor league baseball, I'm not sure there's a collegiate athlete right now that has had more game experiences than the guy sitting to my right, your left. And he can do it all. He can punt. He can kick. Skipper's better than him, but if Skipper wasn't, I'd throw him out there to do kickoffs, and I'd throw him out there to do X-point field goals. And he's a very versatile athlete. So basically what it came down to was trust. I knew the guy's a gamer, and I think Saturday was a great example of that. We had a high snap. There's no way our other punter would have came down with that snap. That would have been the end zone for 7 points, and he came up and got that ball. And it's just a trust thing and a competitive thing, and I'm not down on Cribley. He's a freshman, but you're in these competitive games against the ODUs and the Ferrises and the Ashlands. You want guys out there that are comfortable in those situations. Jamie Potts is way more comfortable than the rest of our specialists in those situations.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it helped when I was in high school. I went to a small school, Division V school where, I had to do a lot of different things. I was our punter, our kicker, and, played offense and defense. So, from that perspective, that really helped me early on. I started doing those things when I was, 10 years old. So, at this point in my career, I'm happy that I can, obviously help our team and help us on special teams as well. So, I'm just kind of happy I can get the job done for us.
Okay, that will conclude today's media luncheon. Thank you.